you'll notice that our two proposition teams are on the left, our two opposition teams are on the right. That's the way you sit. Okay? All right? With that in mind, I would ask our moderator for debate, Joaquin, to go introduce the debate. And our timekeeper will be, Marty, got it? Marius will be our timekeeper.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. And I beg your attention to listen to this demonstration debate on the motion this House will compel children to care for their elderly parents. And we have 4 teams to debate this show. We directly call upon the first speaker to deliver his speech. Members of the jury, ladies and gentlemen, you're all welcome to this debate. It is with pleasure that I stand before you this day of opening government to talk on the motion of this debate. The motion of this debate is, this House believes that children are obliged to take care of their parents when they are old. Why then do we say that it is an obligation for children to take care of their parents when they are old? Firstly, I'll start with the first point, which is, of course, I think is the most important. The fact that they gave us the life that we have. We feel that we are energetic. We feel that we are so powerful. But it is because they were there for us. That is why we are that powerful. So I think it is but natural that we show some gratitude to them by taking care of them in their old age. Secondly, I talk about the point that they are the ones that have shown us so much love when we were young and tender and are unable to do what we are doing right now. And now it is the time that they themselves are unable to do those things that we are doing right now, which means it's our own turn to take care of them. You know, life is a cycle. And let's remember that we are also going to go old someday. Thirdly, I would like to start my third point by quoting a philosopher, Aldous Huxley, who said, the greatest lesson that history has to teach us is the fact that man doesn't learn from history. In his quote, he declares openly that ignoring history implies we are equally ignoring our future. This goes to support my third point, which states that our parents are a library of experiences which we can peruse free of charge. And again, you realize that it is especially at their point of old age that they have all the time in the world to deliver this wisdom to us if we should seek it. Then why not take care of them and in so doing benefit from their wisdom? I'll take over.
Sir, your speech seems to assume that parents have done an excellent job of taking care of their children. What about those parents who are neglectful of their children and who do not take care of them, who do not raise them, who do not provide for their resources? Would you then say that those children do not have an obligation to take care of their parents?
I'll get back to you. Lastly, I talk about the effect on our economy, on our social and political environment too. What about the decisions that we take? You know, it would be a shame if we should make the same mistakes that have been made in the past. Think of a typical situation like the war between the US and Japan when they used the nuclear bomb. If such a situation should be repeated, then it will be a shame or a disaster for our world. And the experience that we've learned has been as a result of the old people who were there before us, who had an experience in these wars, who would tell us that the consequences are grave. I therefore conclude by saying that it is an obligation for children to take care of their parents in their old age. I'm proud to propose.
Okay, we welcome the first speaker for his speech, and then we call upon the leader of the opposition to take the floor. Here.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are here to defend this motion. This House believes that children should be compelled to take care of elderly parents. Well, I think there is nothing wrong with the status quo. That's why no one's complaining. We are taking the situation that we are living here in Cameroon. Nobody is complaining. Therefore, there is no problem with children taking care of their parents. No parent is complaining about children taking care of them. I think we are going to advance our argument from 5 main points. I'll be in charge of 3 points, and the deputy, Ms. Patricia, will be taking care of the last 2 points. But before I get to analyzing our points, I would like to rebut the ideas which the Prime Minister believed sufficiently and very greatly proposed here. The first idea he thought children should be compelled to take care of parents was because they gave us life and we need to pay them back by helping them. But I just wish to ask them, the fact that they gave us the life doesn't mean they need to take away the life by forcing us to take care of them. So children should not be forced to take care of their parents. Forcing to take care of their parents will mean causing the children to go extra miles, and this may cause a leg and an arm. We are not for that. Secondly, he said the love they gave us when we were young is incommensurable. Well, I doubt. Prof was just from giving us lectures. The best lessons I've learned in my life is from my teachers. Not only parents give me this love, the best love I've experienced is from my teachers, my instructors, those who take care of me. So the points he was talking about love, I think it should really be done. Lastly, he proposed the economic, and he was talking about nuclear bombs. But I just wish to ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, can Cameroon fabricate a bomb? It is not, it does not express our reality, and actually, it should not be taken as a serious point. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to advance my points now by telling you why we think children should not be compelled to take care of the elderly parents. In the first place, why should it be children? Why should it only be children to take care of their parents? Most children in Cameroon, as we live our reality, are up to articulator, are up to 40, and by 40 here in Cameroon, you hardly have something doing. But a cousin who is not actually the child of your elderly parent may have something doing who can help your elderly parent. So they should be the ones to take care of their parents, not actually the children who may not actually have the means to support your parents. Secondly, we think, just like other Western democracies, the government should be able to provide for facilities where elderly people can be lodged, where they can be taken care of, since the children may not have the means to take care of their elderly parents. We're actually thinking articulator. We're actually thinking about the NGOs. They should muster the force to support these elderly people than actually to do senseless or misplaced charity on other affairs that does not really affect the human aspect of our society. We shall look at another point, what the rights of the children say. But trying to compel the children to take care of their parents will mean violating their right to self-determination. Yes, Madam Secretary.
Many states don't even have the resources to provide basic education and basic health care. How is those same states going to provide care for many elderly people who would otherwise not receive it if their children weren't doing it?
Thank you. I think it's more of a question of the will and not actually the resources. Once the state has the will to take care of these facilities, they will make sure they, during the drafting of their budget, they get resources for this particular sector. So I believe that one, your points have been treated. Now, what about the children's rights, the points I was talking about? Everybody has his rights to self-determination. And great scientists like Isaac Newton has proven to us that this is the age of science. And what is most valuable is our ideas, the way you think. So nobody should force you to think the way he wants you to think. Because it is only through liberal thought that we can emerge. So nobody should compel the children on any circumstances to take care of their parents. We believe that the great scientists who are living today, science has been producing miracles every hour is thanks to freedom of will, freedom of experience, freedom of thought, independence, self-determination. I'd like to terminate by talking about the legal appeal. It is true that the law can only change in the same proportion to the spirit of the people, since the law itself expresses the spirit of the people. So we don't see, our laws have not changed because our spirit have not changed. So trying to compel the children to take care of their parents will be changing the law when the spirits of the people have not changed. So we think that it will be impossible, it will be unnecessary for people to be forced to think the way some few people see and decide when it's not actually coming from the people. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have been trying to explain to you why children should not be compelled to take care of their parents. We first of all proven to you that in the first place, why should it only be children? There are other people who can take care of the elderly parents who are not necessarily their own children. We have equally told you that the human rights today permits children to have that self-determination, that auto-determination to determine what they think, what they should do themselves. And lastly, we've told you that our legal system does not say anything about this because we don't say anything about this. We are the people who make the legal system through our legislator, so we have not said anything about it. We are okay with the system, and we believe the system is very okay. Thank you for your kind audience.
Okay, we thank you, the leader of the opposition, for his outcome remarks, and now we call upon the second member of the government to deliver his speech. Here.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to defend the motion that this House believes that we should compel children to take care of their parents at their elderly age. I would like to applaud the leader of the opposition for his eloquent remarks and supporting so much my side. I really feel that maybe the debate is all about 5 to 3. I don't know, because his opening salvo indeed supported our side. I quote, "No parent is complaining about their children taking care of them." So what's the problem if we're taking care of them, if no one is complaining? The children themselves are not complaining. Now, I would like to go back to his last speech and what he said. He talked about spirit. Well, if it's spirit you're talking about, I don't have any idea about spirit. Now, getting into the nitty-gritties of the matter, he said, forcing them or not, the storyline still remains. We should take care of our parents. That's what we're saying. Now, why should it be children? And the leader of opposition treated children as someone at age of 40. Are we talking about children? We're talking about adults. He should find a clear line between them. Now, talking about the rights of the children, what about the rights of the elderly people? Did you mention that, Mr. Leader of Opposition? Certainly not. We're going to be finding out a lot of things which I'm going to be mentioning here. I want to draw my inspiration from the books, or what you call the Bible. It talks about the commandments. Honor your father and mother, and you shall live long. And I think the underlying factor here is that how do you take care of our parents? By providing them the basic amenities which they need. That's honor. That's taking care of them. That's the reciprocation of the love which they gave to us when we were small. Secondly, he made mention of the fact which I want to review here so widely. He talked about the government and NGOs taking care of these people. The government government practically lacks resources to even provide for basic education for its own citizens. To me, I think that the government should utilize such funds in the provision of better and other productive areas. For example, I'll get back to you. For example, education, health facilities for the citizens, rather than spending money on taking care of the elderly people, which we, the children, could do that for the government. Now, I quote Martin Luther King Jr., "Be the example you want the world to be." If you think that people are going to take care of you at the elderly age, I think that responsibility starts now. You should take care of your parents. I move to the other side, my Lord. I want to quote from the United States law. I'll get back to you. The Family Law and Act of the United States, Section 32 of that law, states that, I quote, "Every child who is not a minor has an obligation to provide support in accordance with need for his or her parent who cared for or provided support for that child when he or she was young." United States Law, Section 32. I find it more compendious to move forward to the Elizabeth Poor Law of the United Kingdom, declared in 1601 and revised in 1967, which applauds same to the United States Declaration of 1921, Section 32. I still would, if you want to find out more. Finally, it gives me pleasure to say to parents, greater opportunity.
Please, sir, you keep on talking about history. I think Churchill too talks about history is written by the readers. And don't you think you keep on talking about the good side of parents, abandoning those bad parents?
I want to talk about history, and we were citing great leaders like Nelson Mandela. The world is celebrating him and taking care of him in the Pretoria hospital. What are we talking about? Should we take care of all such old people? The world is taking care of Nelson Mandela, an elderly person. Should we have forgotten about him? The children are taking care of him. The NGOs are talking about are still taking care of him, right? I guess you don't have an answer to that. Anyways, finally, it will give parents a greater opportunity. I'm going to get back to you, sir. It will give parents a greater opportunity to provide for the children a quality and sound education as well as other basic amenities. Think, for example, if I am a parent and I know fully well that my child is going to take care of me, I'm not going to start saving up for retirement for myself, to take care of myself maybe when I'm old. I'm going to utilize those retirement funds and benefits to provide better quality education or health facilities for my children. I'm going to utilize those funds to provide such facilities to them because I know that they're going to take care of me. But if I know that when I'm old, nobody's going to take care of me, I'm going to utilize such funds in taking care of myself when I'm old. So it's simple. It's a give and take relationship which we're trying to establish here. I'll get back to you. Last but not the least, now the parents at their elderly age are depending on what we call the pension or the pension allowance, which of course the government might trim down to maybe 1/4, right? Which doesn't meet up to their basic facilities which they need at such age. Therefore, why don't we come up to support them to augment such salaries so that they can be able to take care of themselves when they're old, because their pension funds might not be able to cover for their costs at their elderly age. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end my speech by throwing a seemingly unimportant but necessary fundamental question which I really want you to digest. Would you love to be taken care of at your elderly age? If the answer is yes, then I think that you need to sow, for in sowing is what you're going to reap. Thank you very much.
Okay, that was the speech of the second member of the government. Now we call the second member of the opposition ready for the speech. Here, here, here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's really an honor to be here debating in Cameroon. I can honestly say when I was 5 years old, I didn't think I'd be here by the time I was 20. So thank you all for listening to me. Sorry if I talk fast. The part of Canada I'm from is known for speaking extremely quickly. Merci d'avoir ici. Je vais parler en français plus tard dans la semaine. Hello. So first things first, I'm going to talk about my two constructive arguments, and then I'm going to rebuild my partner's arguments and refute what was said by the Deputy Prime Minister. So first of all, let's talk about the harms of taking care of your parents, right? Because every decision you make has consequences, right? When you choose to spend money on one thing, you can no longer spend it on another thing, right? So the government got up here and tried to characterize this as, being good for the children. But actually, let's talk about the grandchildren of these parents, right? Because if you're taking care of your parents, you have to feed them, right? You might need to get a bigger house to have room for them. What does that mean? It means you can't spend money on other things, like your children's education, right? Because not every country in the world has the ability to provide education for free, right? Sometimes you have to pay for it. If you're paying for your elderly parents to eat, if you're paying for them, if you're taking care of them, then who's losing out, right? The next generation, these children who aren't being educated, right? Like if your job is to sell cane wraps on the side of the road, and then you come home with the money you make, and you have to choose, do I pay my kids' school fees, or do I take care of my elderly parents, right? But what if, like my partner said, you have a cousin who's a teacher, and they can afford to do it, they can afford to take care of your parents. Why does it have to be the children of these parents or these elderly people that are compelled to take care of them, right? But there might be other people who are better suited and can better able to afford to be able to do so. So what we would say on opposition is that children shouldn't be compelled to do it because there might be better people who are better suited to doing this, right? So the next argument I want to talk about is like what gives old people purpose in old age, right? So you're getting older, you break your hip, you can't go for walks anymore, you have trouble, you can't see, you can't read the newspaper. So what do? Right? You need a purpose in life. You need something to be able to do. No, thank you. So what I would say is like parents are parents, right? Like your mom's never going to stop being your mom. So what does she want to do? She wants to take care of you, right? Like even when you're like a 40-year-old man or woman, like your mom's still going to be like, can you come over on Sunday for supper? Like, all right, can you let me take care of you? Like your children need a bath, right? They need something to do. They need some purpose. So I don't think that they need to be taken care of. I think that they still want to take care of you, right? Like sometimes they still try to give you their money and things like that, right? So what I would say is that we shouldn't compel children to take care of their parents because that can sometimes actually cause arguments and stuff, right? These people who want to take care of you, their purpose in life was to take care of you, and suddenly you're saying, no, I have to take care of you, I have to take care of you. And they're like, whoa, I want to be independent, I want to help you, why are you doing this, right? You think this can actually cause conflicts in families when you have people fighting over who's trying to take care of you, right? I don't think that anyone should be compelled to do anything they don't want to do, as my partner talked about. And I think that if these children don't want to take care of their elderly parents, and the elderly parents actually want to keep taking care of their grown children, they should be allowed to do so, right? I think that, no thank you, that this compelling stuff just isn't going to cut it for me. So, no thank you. So next we're going to move on to some rebuilding of my partner's points, right? So the Deputy Prime Minister got up here and said like, oh, well, the government isn't in a position to provide for these people, right? So I have a couple of responses to this. Number one, like in the 1980s in Uganda, which is a little closer to home, to Cameroon than like the United States or Canada, in Uganda they had like village treatment programs, right? So like the village would come together and treat the elderly people who lived there and help them, right? And then the government would provide food and like some money to the families that were doing that. Like not a lot, right? Because the government can't necessarily afford to do that a lot, but they did that a little bit, right? So that's a model that might be able to be used in Cameroon, or like other countries like Cameroon, right? And these people aren't necessarily related to the elderly people in that village, right? So I think if Uganda can do it that way, that frees up the children to be able to pay the school fees for their kids and stuff. It allows them for those kind of things, and allows for better like equality of distribution there. So the second thing is, I think that states in Asia, states in Africa, sometimes need better priorities, right? Like maybe Robert Mugabe shouldn't own like 14 Jaguar and BMWs, right? Like maybe instead he should be spending that money on taking care of elderly people, right? Like that's what we're seeing on our side of the house. I think that governments often have a lot more money than they're willing to admit, but they have the wrong priorities because people like power and money too much. So the next thing that they tried to refute is the argument about children's rights. And they said like, oh, are they children or are they adults? Like, make a decision. Come on now, like, little kid, like, can't do this. And I would say that, yeah, okay, so we're talking about the sons and daughters who are 40 years old, right? I think that when you try to refute an argument, you should refute the actual meat of the argument and not the rhetoric. The argument that my partner made was that every adult has the ability to make decisions and self-determine for themselves. I'll take you in a minute, Marielle. But what we would say is that if you choose not to take care of your elderly parents, to be able to send your kids to school or save up money for your own retirement, that should be a choice you should be allowed to make. Yeah, go ahead.
So if your argument is that people in the community should be the ones to in a group, take care of these elderly people, how does that make sense? Because those are the same people who, like the parent, the children, you're saying shouldn't be the ones taking care of these elderly people. The argument isn't aligning.
Yeah, okay, so what I'm saying is that sometimes you're not related to someone, But that doesn't mean that you should be less compelled to take, I think you should take care of people in need when you can, right? But just because they gave birth to you doesn't mean that you necessarily have an obligation to do that, and that leads me well into my reputation. So the first argument that the government brought up is they give us life. And now I will say it's pretty easy to give someone life, right? But it's not easy to give someone a good life. We have arguments on this side about reciprocity, right? They say that, oh, well, they gave birth to us and they loved us a lot. But what if they didn't? What if they ran away? What if your mom or dad ran away and they didn't take care of you? Do you then have a responsibility for them to come back when they're old and say, oh, well, I gave birth to you, so now you feed me? No, like, that's not how it works, right? I would say that, yeah, sure, maybe there are a library of experiences that we could learn from, but you could go visit them, right? They don't need to live with you. You don't need to feed them to get these kind of benefits. What we would say is that there are other people who are sometimes better suited. There's no reason for necessarily, they haven't shown us why particularly children have this responsibility. Because it's pretty easy to get married to someone, have a kid, then realize that children are really scary and a lot of responsibility, and then running the other direction, right? So the next thing they talked about is they say, like, you know, honor your father and honor your mother. And I think you can do that without necessarily paying for absolutely everything they do when they're older. The final thing they talked about was it's better for the children. But what if your child dies? What if they become injured? What if they can't find work? Then they can't take care of you. I think everyone should try to be as independent as possible and self-determined and save up for their retirement anyways. Thank you.
Okay, we thank you, the second member of the opposition, for the armed rights. Now we move to the second part of the debate. It is a great extension of the debate, let us say a new debate. And now we call upon the first member of the government to deliver the speech.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I salute you. I would like to begin by quoting what the second speaker of the opposition said. She said, all the people should help our parents. But I want to ask, do those other people, don't they have parents? Isn't that a gross statement to make? How can other people help our parents? They have a family, they have their life to lead, they have their own parents, they have their own troubles. So why should they take care of ours? So I don't know how she can answer that. Okay, she also spoke about a community in Uganda helping older people. I'd like to ask, in a community, if they're helping older people, that means they are young. And if you're young, you're supposed to be a child or an adult. So that brings back to our fact that the children have to help the older people because they are part of the younger community and they have the obligation to help older people. And talking about care, they're looking at care at a very scientific point of view. Because care, what we mean by care is taking them to the hospital, having them food to eat, taking them for a stroll. You know, it's not about spending large sums of money. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being there for them. Because at old age is a very important stage of someone's life. Because the person starts thinking differently. Some people get paranoid about what is going to happen, how their life is going to look like. So the children are to be there to guide them so that they might have good life, they might have things settled down for them, not being babysitters. And the president of the opposition spoke about the economy. I'm doing banking and finance, so I know what that talks about. He said directing funds to take care of the old. For example, a country like Cameroon, there are no funds to take care of our roads. So I don't know which cost-benefit analysis will be directed towards taking care of older people, while there will not even be roads to lead them to those people. So I don't understand what it means by that. And also, they spoke about the freedom of thought, that children have the freedom of thought. But the problem is, the freedom of thought entails responsibility. It entails choice. So they have to take choices. And that will have to mean taking care of people. Because life is a cycle, it's a give and take. So as the parents give you, it's an investment being put into you. So they will expect that. Even if it's not your child. Like they spoke about cousins helping other people's parents. But I want to understand, they don't understand the meaning of family. A family is made up of a nuclear understanding. So if you're talking about a cousin who's a child taking care of his cousin's parents, it's still family. And that still boils back down to the point of children taking care of older people. So it's the same thing, the same idea, which they don't really understand. And I also talk about a proverb, and that there's an African proverb that goes thus: that what an old man sees sitting down, a young man cannot see standing on the top of the highest tree. We need old people in our society. Practical example: we have our tutor who has come to guide us about this debate. He's not, from my own perspective, he's not somebody young. He's an old person who has wisdom or years of experience. So if he wasn't taken care of, if he wasn't given the opportunity to be healthy enough by younger people to be here today, we wouldn't have this education, we wouldn't be getting here. So we need to take care of the older people. They are essential part of our society. If we're talking about senators, those who take the hardest decisions in the economy are made up of the old. So we cannot take a negative stand when we're talking about the old. It's a pride that they are still here to guide us and mold us to what we want to be tomorrow. Yeah?
If you're taking your father to the hospital, it means you can't work. And if you can't work, you can't pay for your kids' school fees. Look at that cost benefit down.
That's a very, not to be too negative about what she said. In every institution, they grant holidays. You can go and meet your boss and tell him, okay, I want 20 minutes to go see off. He won't refuse that. I'll take you later, please. He won't refuse granting you that opportunity to take your dad to the hospital or an elderly person. That's a moral right, which and all institutions try to promote that picture. So she can't be talking about taking them to the hospital and stopping them from work. Yeah.
Are you suggesting that the obligation to take care of our elderly parents only exists on holidays?
No, it doesn't exist on holidays. That's why the leader of the opposition spoke about cousins. He spoke about family. And that's what we're talking about. Family will help if you can be. So the family will come and take part. He just supports the point. And I'll go further to say it's morally correct. Each and every human being is endowed with a conscience. And seeing the person that put you to birth, that took care of you, even if the person was bad as what, it's a moral obligation to be able to show love to that person. Because we're all about evolution. We're all about mending our wrongs and trying to build up a better society. So if someone does you wrong, and you do wrong to that person, he doesn't die. That doesn't work. But if someone does you wrong and you show love to that person, that person will be able to change. And that's what we're talking about. And in case of the children taking care of their parents, it's very essential. I also talk about reducing state burden, because our economy, mostly here in Africa, are very stressed upon the fact of funds, and so the children and the community at large are able to take care of the older people, to reduce the state expenditure, taking care of older people while we can. So I would like to call upon everybody's indulgence to take care of their parents. It's a moral obligation, it's right, and it's what we have to do. Thank you.
Okay, that was the speech of the other member of the government. Now, we will call the other member of the opposition to take the floor.
Members of the jury, ladies and gentlemen, I salute you once more. I am standing on the fact that children should not be compelled to take care of their elderly ones. I will start by advancing the point the second speaker of the government bench said. It goes thus. Said, the Bible says we should honor our mothers and our fathers. The Bible forces, that is the Bible, in fact, I am a Muslim. I am used to the Quran. My Quran does not force me to take care of my parents. It does not. Ladies and gentlemen, care is seen in two ways. It is emotionally and physically. care is seen in two ways: emotionally. Remain, yes, actually, you need to take care of your parents, you need to do some few things willfully, not that you are forced to do these things. Secondly, on the physical aspect of it, if children are forced to take care of their parents, my goodness, it will lead to negligence. They are not doing what they want, they are not doing what they like. For instance, if you tell me, Professor is my dad, I know as a child, I know what I am supposed to do to him. I know what he expects me to do. So therefore, I don't need anyone to force me to take care of my father. Because when you are like trying to force me, I will do what I am not supposed to do. So ladies and gentlemen, this thing is not by force. The second point. Parents should not pass out their failures to the younger ones through force. Actually, as a parent, you expect your children to take good care of you. Yes. You need to take care of these children. It is true that they gave birth to us. It is true that they gave us life. They were also given life, that same life, by other parents. Actually, so any mistake that these parents made they should not force us to do what they do not also do. We should not be forced. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll move to the next point. Parents' obligation to take care for children never ends. So, if these children are compelled to take care of their parents, it will lead to that negligence. And elderly ones are supposed to take care instead of the younger ones. We take, for example, the case of Mila Roger, who was a player in the national team of Cameroon, and Samuel Etofis. Roger Mila is supposed to take good care of Samuel Etofis. He has been in the team. He has worked in the team. He knows the ups and downs. He knows the problems that the team is facing. So he is supposed to help Etofis. He is supposed to tell Etofis what he is supposed to do. So I think with this example, we are able to know that the elderly ones are supposed to take care of the younger ones.
Point of information. Yes. Are you therefore saying that Etofis is a child of some Roger Mila?
Actually, he is not a child, but when it comes to the football team, he is a child to Mila Roger. Yes. So the young ones expect the older ones to take care of us. Yes.
Said something like, it's not force, but I've not seen any constitution which is stipulated that if you don't take care of your parents, you're going to go to jail. So I don't see the force in it. And I just acknowledge the fact that children have to help their parents. So we should be sitting here rather than sitting there.
Mr. Davis, thank you very much for that. Maybe I would take this as if you didn't understand the motion. Because if you are compelled to do something, it definitely means you are forced.
What about the Sharia law in the Quran, which your faith proclaims that not only compels people to give money to their family members, but to beggars inclusive?
Actually, Section 246 of the Cameroon Labor Code, yes, punishes beggars. So, if your Bible forces you to take care of your parents, then my Quran does not do that. I am supposed to take care of my parents. It does not force me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to bear in mind with me that we need more help from our elderly ones than they do for us. We need to, our elderly ones, they need to treat us with some love. They need to treat us with some respect. This thing is reciprocal. It is two ways. So, if you do not give me the care I deserve when I was still a child, you do not expect me to take care of you when you are old. So it's in two ways.
Okay, we now come to a strategic point. Those who the whip speak it will sum up our debate, and we welcome the whip of the government. Here, here. Here, here.
What does it mean to care for someone? I don't think that there's been a clear depiction of this in debate. And often what that means, or for caring for your elderly parent, it's like buying them food, it's taking them to the doctor when they're sick. Or in some cases, it's having them live with you when they no longer can take care of themselves. The sad reality is today, many people who are elderly don't get that care, and they're left to suffer. This is what we'd like to reduce or not see on our side of the debate. So I think there's two fundamental questions that need to be answered in this debate. Firstly, will care be provided to elderly people, and will there be good care provided? We think we do that on the government side of the motion, where we have a culture where children are obligated to do that. And secondly, is there actually an obligation? In a principled sense, should this be obliged based on the fact that someone gave birth to you and took care of you? Those are the two questions I'm going to be answering in this debate. Rebuttal will mainly be interwoven throughout, and I'll point it out as I go through. But there's 2 points that kind of don't fit into my case, and I'll just do them now. So coming out of Patricia's speech, she starts to talk about we shouldn't be forcing people to care for their parents when they don't want to be cared for. That's just not the debate we're having. This debate doesn't infringe upon people who want to take care of themselves. Like, in those situations, it's not a problem. So that's just like outside the realms of the debate. People who can, elderly people who are happy taking care of themselves aren't really being affected by this motion. So that's not relevant. Second, it came out of the POI. I don't know if this will be brought up in the whip speech, but I think it was relevant, sort of. It's like, what about cases where there's abuse in the situation? Should then people still be obliged to take care of their parents? And the answer to this question is like twofold. First of all, in a general, principled sense, we think we should have a culture in which it's still encouraged for people to take care of their parents. Because on the whole, that's more important. We shouldn't make exceptions to this rule because of specific cases. But even in his case, we still think that there should be an obligation, even if there was some sort of abuse. Because then, what's essentially going to continue is an elderly person who isn't being taken care of is also being abused. We don't think we should continue to hurt someone just because someone hurt us. That doesn't make it right and doesn't make it acceptable. On the side of the house, we don't support human suffering in any kind. So going on into my case, answering the first question, will care be provided in a world in which we don't have children doing this, when there isn't an obligation put on children? Will care be provided? And the answer to that question is obviously not. Why is that the case? That's the case because, as they sort of mentioned, as we mentioned, the state doesn't always have the time, the money, the resources to provide the type of care that they would like to see, and that we would all like to see. We don't live in that world, and so we can't depend on that world to which we do not live. And in many cases, it is the children who actually have the means to take care of their parents, and that the state does not have that role, or that does not have that ability when, as we mentioned, cannot provide basic education, cannot provide things that aren't even standard level. And then, so why also is the state a bad actor? Or why can't another actor do this is what I'm trying to say in my next point. This responds directly to Patricia's argument. So this is sort of the rebuttal. Because she's like, well, we can have alternative situations in which communities collectively take care of the adult population. But the problem is that's not the world we live in. Unless she's providing you with a control mechanism to which, like, that's going to be enforced, and we're all of a sudden going to create that culture. That's not going to happen. But moreover, it just doesn't make sense practically, because the same people she wants to take care of all the old people are the same people who want to take care of their own parents who already are not doing it. We want them to take care of the people who have already cared for them and who they know the best. Because you know that your parents the best, you can take the best care of them. Which gets me into my next point about why is like the state a bad actor, but why, moreover, are the children the best actor to be doing this? Because the children are the ones who know their parents the best. You, being part of your family, understand what it's like to get along with your parents. And going through your old age, you don't want to be with people you don't know. You don't want to have to get to know a whole new community. Like, you don't want to be thrown in a nursing home where you don't know anyone. You don't want to be thrown to a community you don't know. You want to be with the people that you were with, you worked to raise, people that understand you. That's where you're most likely to get the best treatment. And also responding directly in a point of rebuttal about this. She's like, well, if we force people to do this, we're going to get bad care. We're already getting bad care when the state is the one who's doing this. There are so many understaffed nursing homes where the state simply can't provide the resources, and there's no one checking up on those people. Those people are literally dying in their own feces because the nurses are so understaffed that they are left in their own waste. That is the alternative that exists on their side of the house when we don't have children who know their parents, who are more likely to care about them, being the ones who are obligated to take on this role. So now, on to the second question. Is there an obligation, principally, to have children doing this based on the fact that they were, your parent gave birth to you? We think the answer to this question is yes. Why is this the case? This is sort of elaborated on, in my partner's speech, when he was like, we need to preserve the family, these institutions. They don't just operate, without some sort of reciprocity. What he was saying was that, because you were raised by your parent, because they gave you the tools that you had at your time, that when you were incapable, when you were a child, you couldn't do all those things for yourself. Now it's your parent who is in that same situation that you were in when you were a child. And in order for that family dynamic to continue, because the family has to work that way, because there isn't an alternative, we need to preserve that institution. Because we all like our families. We all gain benefits from being part of a family. Without a family, there is no one taking care of you on a daily basis. So we have to respect the institution of the family, which is based on a principle of reciprocity. It's based on the idea that in certain times of your life, you are not capable of taking care of yourself. And that is why we need to have this principle put in place. That is why this obligation exists, because there are certain times which people aren't biologically capable of taking care of themselves. Moreover, on a personal level, we oppose human suffering. We can't allow that to happen. In a world in which we don't have a culture that promotes children taking care of the elderly, people are likely to suffer, and we don't support that on the government side of the bench. Here we go.
Okay, we now call upon the whip of the opposition to deliver his speech. Here, here.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker. Let me first say what a pleasure it is to be here in Cameroon, having this very spirited debate about a very important issue. Now, the proposition team just told you that this debate is about two things, and I'm going to disagree with that. She said that it was about, number one, will these people, namely elderly parents, be taken care of? And number two, will that care be good? Well, this debate is not about that first issue. Both sides of the House agree that elderly persons should be taken care of. The debate is about who should be the one who is obligated to take care of them. And this is the fundamental issue that has been missed by the proposition. Secondly, whether the care will be good. Now, I agree this issue is actually relevant to debate, but the proposition team hasn't sufficiently analyzed whether or not it would be good to compel children to take care of their parents that they don't want to take care of, or whether it would be better to have other people who actually want to take care of them take care of these parents. And it's because we agree with the latter part of the statement that we are proud to oppose this motion. I think the debate can be better summarized in 3 points. The first issue is, who should bear the burden? Should it be the children, or should it be someone else? The second issue is, what are the rights? Do the elderly have some fundamental natural human right to be taken care of by their children? Or do children have a certain right fundamental to their bodies, fundamental to their own resources, that right we call self-determination, and the ability to make the choices for themselves about what they should be? And the third issue is the issue of neglect. And this issue is going to be very important because I think the debate is going to come down to neglect. In particular, the neglect of parents who may neglect their children, a point the proposition again didn't really address. And also the point that my partner so eloquently brought up about parents who neglect themselves. In other words, parents who make mistakes and why we should have to be forced to take care of them and their failures and their mistakes. But let's first deal with who should bear the obligation. Is it the children's obligation? Is it someone else's obligation? Well, proposition quoted to you an African proverb. I'd like to quote my own. The African proverb is that it takes a village to raise a child. I believe a corollary principle to that is it takes a village to take care of the elderly. Single people, individuals, cannot do it on their own. They have provided you with no analysis as to why a single individual has more resources than the government, than NGOs, than villages, than communities. Our opposition brought up a great example of Uganda and the people of Uganda coming together to take care of the elderly. They say, well, wait a minute, don't they have their own parents to take care of? But unfortunately, our parents pass away. Unfortunately, there are people who are walking around with parents who have gone on who don't have parents to take care of. It is our position on this side of the house that we should band together in our communities to take care of all of our elderly. That we should not leave it to single, solitary individuals with limited resources, limited means, possibly limited time, and possibly no job to fend for themselves to take care of their elderly parents. No. We say on this side of the house we should come together. That the obligation is all of our obligation. That we should not have a singular view that the obligation rests solely with the children of those parents. More importantly, they tell you that, well, children are the best actors. They're the best people to take care of their parents. In one moment, I take issue with this position. Number one, they don't address the issue of where the children have limited resources. Number two, they don't address the issues of where the children may not even know their parents because those parents did not raise them. More importantly, they did not address the issue of what children may not even love those parents. And as my partner so eloquently told you, that sometimes when you force people to take care of those who they do not want to take care of, they do not do a very good job. This speaker, in fact, told you the example of nursing homes. What happens in nursing homes when you have nurses who don't care for their patients? They're forced to take care of them. It's their job, but they don't do a very good job. On that, but you disagree.
So when these governments and these communities don't exist, is it okay for individual children to not take care of their parents who are now have no one to take care of them?
I don't know of what hypothetical world you live in where the state does not exist. Furthermore, in that hypothetical world, if the state does not exist, then who is going to compel the children to take care of their parents? The motion where children have to be compelled to take care of their elderly parents. I presume that compulsion comes from the state. But moving on to the second issue of the rights. Who are these rights? Who has the right? We say on this side of the house that it is the right to self-determination that should be vindicated as the first principle. That each individual has to make a decision for themselves about what they're going to do. That may be guided by their religion, whether it be Christianity, whether it be Muslim, no matter whether they have no faith at all. But it has to be an individual decision, not something that is compelled. They could not point to you any universal source of authority for this elderly right to be taken care of by their children. They merely assert that it exists. But a mere assertion is not support. A mere assertion does not equate to an argument. Finally, we need to deal with the issue of neglect. And there are two categories of neglect here. One, when children have been neglected by their parents. And again, they do not answer this question of why a child should be forced to take care of a parent that never took care of them. They never deal with the question of when the parent has been neglectful of their own lives, made bad decisions. Maybe they were a drug dealer. Maybe they were a murderer. Maybe they were a rapist and they just got out of jail. And now you're saying that on your side of the house, this child should be compelled to take care of this parent. Why? We disagree with that. We say that on this side of the house, you should be able to say no. You should be able to look at that parent and say, you know, you're a bad person. You did a bad job. I disagree with the way you're living your life. I don't want to have to be forced to feed someone hand and mouth who I disagree with on a moral level, on a spiritual level, on a family level, on any level you can imagine. And for all of these reasons, we are proud to oppose this motion. and we stand firmly resolved that this House should not compel children to take care of their kids.
All the debaters for this debate and ask each other